Our players across the league are too often the targets. This is not something any player in this league should have to tolerate.
Do you think Caitlin's being used as a pawn? Caitlin didn't bring racism to the WNBA. This has been happening. And that, I think, is what's been such a shock for all of us.
Honestly, for those of us who have been paying close attention, this boiling point felt entirely inevitable. It all truly exploded right here. And believe me, you are going to want to stick around until the very end to understand exactly why the Indiana Fever are on the verge of executing some truly massive changes. The club recently dropped a series of incredibly significant announcements, including a revelation about their star.
There is one thing I want to reset, that we want to reset, and it's the language being used around fans. Fever fans, Caitlin fans, new fans. That actually has to go.
Caitlin Clark, that has sent absolute shockwaves through the league, and here is the kicker. Right in the middle of all this chaos, the legendary Sue Bird stepped forward and absolutely brutally denounced the rampant racism she witnessed in the WNBA. Let's be real, this was long overdue. Think about it. Countless legends, MVPs, and gold medalists have all quietly endured similar obstacles and faced comparable challenges throughout their careers. But then, almost out of nowhere, someone finally found the courage, the sheer audacity to truly speak out. Sue Bird wasn't just talking to hear her own voice either. Oh no, she came armed with what I can only describe as pyrotechnics, bringing the kind of heat and undeniable truth that you just cannot ignore.
Did you, when you went and kind of swatted at Caitlin, did you intend to hit her in the eye? And if so, could you just, or if not, either way, could you talk about what happened on that play?
I don't even know why I would intend to hit anybody in the eye. That doesn't even make sense to me. But no, I didn't. I didn't know I hit her, actually. I was trying to make a play on the ball, and I guess I followed through and I hit her. So obviously it's never intentional. That's not even like the type of player that I am. So yeah.
Did you and Marina kind of laugh about it afterwards? It looked like there was later on in the game they caught you guys laughing about it.
No, I just told you I didn't even know I hit her. So I can't laugh about something I didn't know happened.
Let me tell you, the Indiana Fever camp responded to this with an impact that will define their future. But before we get into the specifics, there is the most incredible part. Sue Bird, with everything on the line, didn't even hesitate to dive deep into a no-holds-barred podcast conversation with none other than Megan Rapinoe. This was a massive risk, a potentially career-altering move, but she went for it anyway. On that podcast, she fearlessly put forward the hard questions. She wanted to know why Caitlin Clark was becoming the target of such intense racial hatred. Why were her truly outstanding accomplishments, her record-breaking sales numbers?
Obviously, hearing it initially, my visceral reaction was like, that's not good. That doesn't feel good. That feels racist, to be honest.
And her undeniable impact being so blatantly disregarded, and then, you know what is even crazier? She went a step further, subtly dropping hints about the very real possibility of systemic league conspiracies specifically targeting Caitlin. Let that sink in for a moment. So where did this all truly begin to boil over? It actually kicked off when Dijonai Carrington found herself being questioned by journalist Christine Brennan after a game about what seemed like a rather odd occurrence. Now, I know what you were thinking right now. You would probably assume this was just another standard post-game query, right? Athletes are constantly fielding questions about all sorts of challenging circumstances, controversies, and on-court incidents.
Disagree with you on Christine Brennan's question being dickish, or she shouldn't have answered it, because it was something that was out there that everybody was talking about. And so she asked the question, and it was a great opportunity for Carrington to, on the record, say, no, I didn't do it. And that's all that happened. So I do disagree with you. I don't think it was a dickish question. I think it was a fine question based on what was going on at the moment.
But this time, oh man, things took a sharp turn and they went south fast. Megan Rapinoe, with her characteristic sharp wit, immediately retorted that despite how innocent the question might have appeared on the surface, its very phrasing carried a deeply unsettling racial undertone. And just like that, a completely fresh and, frankly, absolutely critical perspective on the entire topic abruptly surfaced, shifting the narrative entirely. And let's be brutally honest here, that seems racist was the undeniable feeling in the air. Sue Bird, being Sue Bird, simply could not and would not let this moment pass.
It led to the Twitter trolls and bots taking over. And what started there was this narrative of petty, jealous players hating on Caitlin. That's really what happened. That's where it started. That we must just dislike her, that we look at her side-eyed, that we don't want her to come in the WNBA and be successful, that we're hating on her, right? So we're petty and we're...
Without embracing her customary rebellious posture. She didn't just critique, she openly slammed the media, singling out ESPN in particular for sensationalizing and twisting the situation into something far more inflammatory. Her point was crystal clear. The original question itself might not have been inherently racist, but the way the media chose to frame and present it, oh, that, my friends, was absolutely, unequivocally troublesome. Sue meticulously pointed out a stark, undeniable truth. Athletes of color are routinely subjected to an exponentially higher degree of scrutiny and criticism compared to their white counterparts. Think about it this way. What happens, really, when a black athlete gets involved in a similar situation? Suddenly, it escalates beyond a simple incident.
At any point did I think anybody was playing dirty against Caitlin? Not at any point did I think Caitlin was targeted. And I'm going to stop on that word because what happened was these petty jealousy narratives that got formed. Then, when the season started and people saw people blocking Caitlin's shot or picking her up full court, it then became, oh, they're targeting her. Oh, they're targeting.
It morphs into a far more serious problem. A heated disagreement, or more often than not, tragically devolves into a full-blown racial controversy. It is a double standard that is impossible to ignore. Sue, ever the astute observer, immediately connected the dots, articulating that this wasn't just an isolated incident. It was unmistakably part of a much larger and deeply ingrained picture. And she said this while she was practically still warming up. Journalist Christine, for her part, courageously reprimanded both the WNBA and the media for their egregious failure to contain, and frankly for actively allowing these damaging rumors to fester and spread, even if she herself hadn't initially intended for things to spiral quite so far out of control. Now, here is where Sue's insight truly hits hard.
That it is right now, like it's popping right now, and just being able to know that, like, I'm happy where I'm happy to see all the girly girls being able to pop it and look cute on the runway and being able to continue that, because
she firmly believes that if Dijonai Carrington had been a white athlete, this entire event would have received significantly less attention, probably blowing over with barely a ripple. However, and this is crucial, if a white player had been in Carrington's exact position, we would have been treated to an absolutely full-fledged, meticulously crafted narrative, complete with every single possible ramification and emotional angle explored to its fullest extent. The double standard couldn't be clearer. The immediate aftermath was nothing short of a full-scale Twitter takeover, swarming with bots and trolls, amplifying a toxic narrative. And it all kicked off with this unbelievably flimsy yet pervasive story, implying that small-minded, envious gamers were simply despising Caitlin Clark. In fact, that is precisely what transpired. The narrative began with this insidious idea that we just don't like her, that we can't see things from her perspective, that we don't want her to succeed in the WNBA, and that we are despising her.
All of what I've said led to this group of people being able to push those racist agendas, which really has been, in my opinion, the cause of all of this. And everybody from this moment on has, not everybody, but a lot of people have been operating under the assumption that these narratives, particularly the targeting narrative, is true.
So essentially the message was, we are envious and petty, And here is where it gets truly wild. Sue went on to painstakingly explain how a single, seemingly innocuous comment from none other than Diana Taurasi, one of the most iconic figures in the sport, was the spark that ignited this entire dangerous narrative. Yes, the legend herself made the casual decision to utter a statement so inherently powerful that it literally set the WNBA ablaze. We are talking about complete, unadulterated chaos erupting, all because of the crazy, unforeseen, rippling impact those initial words had. A resident voice of reason, Sue Bird had no choice but to step in and delicately break down exactly what was happening. And this time, it had a far greater, more destructive effect than anyone could have possibly anticipated. When Sue stated that things became ugly, she wasn't just referring to the typical rough-and-tumble competition or the occasional on-court squabbling. She meant the game fundamentally stopped being about basketball the moment blatant hate speech started to rear its ugly head. You see, when fans start getting upset about issues that extend far beyond the game itself, issues like racism, deeply entrenched.
She's obviously doing amazing. Her game speaks for itself. I think my favorite part is just women's basketball, women's sports really, but women's basketball has been on the rise. And it's kind of like what Magic and Bird was to men's basketball. Like this moment, we kind of needed something.
This is
to
that
just
moment.
And Caitlin's that moment. And I think a lot of it has to do with her logo.
Privilege and every other ugly facet you could possibly imagine. That is when you know you have crossed a line. And then, Sue Bird dropped another bombshell, revealing that Caitlin Clark was forced to grapple with far, far more than just the usual elbows and nasty trash talk. Oh no, this was different. We are not talking about symbolic blows here. Caitlin was literally dodging real ones. What's more, she felt an immense pressure to be constantly prepared for threats that went far beyond mere opposing team strategies every single time she stepped onto the court. This was absolutely not fair play. Players were actively, maliciously making fun of her. Sue made it unequivocally clear that this wasn't just about putting up a strong defense, the typical rough and tumble, the expected physicality of a WNBA game.
Racism has been impacting the WNBA well before this year. This is not a new thing.
Sure.
This is, and in that way, I do think Caitlin's being used as a pawn. Caitlin didn't bring racism to the WNBA. This has been happening. And that, I think, is what's been such a shock for all of us, that other people are surprised by this. We've been trying to...
Paled in comparison to the sheer vitriol and targeting Caitlin was enduring. This was deeply personal, and it was undeniably nasty. Crucially, Sue, with her profound understanding, did not minimize the undeniable racial aspect of the situation. She articulated that there was a complex, layered dynamic to Caitlin's situation that extended far beyond simply why she was garnering so much attention or why she appeared to be promoted over other players. It was a volatile mix of racism, privilege, and the deeply rooted frustrations of how some players of color perceived her accomplishment as a metaphor for something much, much larger, overshadowing her actual basketball skill. Sue didn't hold back one bit. This wasn't merely a sports problem anymore. Instead, it had become a potent reflection of the wider, systemic background of racism permeating the league and the boiling over frustrations that were now disturbingly playing out in real time right there on the court, with Caitlin Clark tragically caught right in the brutal middle of it all. Now, shifting gears, some of the most vocal critics like Angel Reese and Alyssa Thomas have vehemently argued that Caitlin Clark is essentially getting the white girl pass. Caitlin Clark, unfortunately, will lose some close friends in this process, but crucially, she will also see certain individuals, like head coach Christy Sides, who she would undeniably want to see go, actually. Yes, you heard that right. They will be dismissing their own coach this winter. The Indiana Fever will absolutely unequivocally be reshaped, refined, and appended by these monumental modifications, steering them towards a dramatically different, hopefully brighter future. So, what are your thoughts about all of this? When the 2025 season tips off, are you anticipating significant changes within the Fever organization? With a completely revamped team, strategically centered around the unparalleled talent of Caitlin Clark, they will definitely be able to fiercely compete for a coveted spot in the top 4